everybody. We are here. We are here today. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Welcome for being here. Taller Boricua Gallery. This is an organization that's been around for 55 years. We have had many directors, people that incorporated in 1969-70, Carlos Osorio, Rafael Tufino, those were our mentors. And Fernando Salicru was here 35 years. He was pivotal in making this organization. And our last curator, our last director was Marcos Dimas. Anyway, and I run the Rafael Tufino pre-making workshop, and once in a while I do curating for the gallery. The purpose of the gallery is to give exposure to those artists that don't get the opportunity to exhibit really out there with their works. You know, New York City is pretty big. You know, we're in the Big Apple, and we want to take a bite out of that apple. So today we're celebrating two fantastic women. One who's been around for quite a while, and one who's starting to be part of being quite a while, Bonelli and Kayleen. So it's going to be interesting because their work is very different from each other. Bonelli's more urban-like, and she's an American artist. She's Latino. She considers herself Latino, Spanish, French, a little bit of Mexican. And Kayleen from Aguadilla, which is a pueblo in Puerto Rico, who this year is celebrating 250 years, who was by the Spaniards. When the Spaniards had Puerto Rico, we were always been a colony, and we're still a colony of the United States. Soon, I hope, either we'll be free or we'll become part of the United States. So Aguadilla is a fantastic place to be in. The beach is fantastic if you take a trip out there. I think this year they're going to celebrate Campechada at Aguadilla, and Kayleen is from Aguadilla, and her paintings have a lot to do with Puerto Rico, as you can see, and los monitos, que son like us. You know, people go to study them because they're very much like us, like humans. But she'll talk to you about that. So anyway, welcome, and I want to thank Willie for being the videographer and the one in charge in the gallery, and I want to thank Jay, who takes care and makes sure nobody steals anything. He's always here. So thank you so much for coming today, and let's listen to this wonderful artist. This video is going to be edited, and it's going to be put in the YouTube by Willie, so it will always be there as part of the archives of Taller Boricua and the Rafael Tufino pre-making work. So welcome to the gallery. So here we go. Let's give applause to the artist, and we're going to have Bonelli talking about herself and her art. Thank you.
Hello. Let's see. Well, I'm going to start this a little backwards. Any questions?
First of all, I really love your work. I wasn't, this is a discovery for me. But at the first glance, I thought about that big Ron Lynch's piece, Boogie Oogie, Boogie Oogie. I was probably saying that word.
Boogie Woogie.
Yes, the one that he did.
Yeah. My very, very early work started out with Picasso. I've always loved synthetic cubism. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yes.
In case the people here don't know, Picasso had different phases. And when he went into cubism, okay, the first cubism he did was the fracturing and the breaking up of the image into shapes and angles and things. And then later he started doing something called synthetic cubism, which was basically the precursor for Stuart Davis, who then took it to another direction from there. So those were the things that interested me when I was young. Okay, Guernica was one, Three Musicians was one, and then the works of Stuart Davis also interested me. So I liked that notion of creating a landscape that was flat but not buildable.
What about Roy Lynch's son? Were you influenced by his work as well?
I've exhibited with him.
Okay. Okay.
No, really, I have.
Okay.
Lichtenstein, not so much. Mainly Escher, Leger, Picasso, Mondrian, because some of my work is very almost Mondrian-esque. It gets very minimal. I kind of go back and forth. Very colorful, very minimal. Very colorful, very minimal. But I've reached a point in my career now where when I work, I tend to work in very unified works. So you know who I am, I have a signature. So if you see my work, you know, oh, this is a Benelli, okay? Because over time, as you begin to work as an artist, what happens is, first you take a little from this painter, you take a little from that painter, you work a little in this theme, a little in that theme, and you kind of meander all around. And very gradually, what ends up happening is you begin to kind of move to a center point where you find who you are, okay? And once you find who you are, there's a consistency to the work that happens automatically. You don't realize it until one day someone picks up the phone and says, hey, listen, I saw a painting at such and such. You really should go over there and take a look. It reminds me of your work. And then you say, but that is my work. Okay, so that's why the works have a tendency to look very much alike, because I don't really make paintings. It's going to sound kind of crazy, okay? I work out problems. I'm a problem solver. I have an idea. Someone says, don't do something. Okay, why not? Okay, one of the things I was told early on was never work in a square, because squares never look square. It's very difficult to make a square painting look like a square. Okay, then somebody else said, never divide the canvas down the center, because once you do that, it falls apart. Oh, there's got to be a way of holding it together. So I approach these things in that way, where I try to solve a problem. So you work on it. It's a kind of a manic depressive activity. You work on a painting, you have an idea, you have a question you're trying to solve, okay? You work on it, you work on it, you work on it, and all of a sudden, it's done. Okay, I got it. That's it. And you walk away, happy as this can be about your painting, okay? You go for a cup of coffee, and you come back and you look at it and you say, oh, I asked the wrong question. Now the next painting starts, because it triggers another idea and another thing that you need to resolve. So it's about resolving problems for me. Some people paint pictures. Some people are interested in light. So everyone has their own thing that they're interested in. For me, it's a problem solving.
What about the architecture and cityscape references? Is that from living in the city?
I've always been a city dweller.
Okay.
Okay, actually, those came about after 9/11.
Oh.
Okay, I've never dealt with the city. I've never did city paintings. I was predominantly a very abstract painter. My first painting I ever did, by the way, as a professional artist, was a portrait. And the client loved it. The couple that I painted loved it. And I decided I would rather go to the dentist and have a tooth pulled than ever do this again. I just hated doing portraits. I hated it with a passion. It wasn't that I couldn't do it. I just didn't like doing it. And I started very gradually becoming a much more abstract.
So 9/11 was a triggering point for you?
9/11 was triggering because I'd never dealt with my city.
Oh.
I lived in New York, and I'd never dealt with it as a subject. So it suddenly became important to me. It started out actually with a painting that I did of Desert Storm.
Okay.
I was in a restaurant, and there were two couples sitting behind me in the restaurant. And he turns around to his friend and says, hey, John, why don't you and your wife come over on Friday night, bring some beer, we'll fix some food, and we'll watch the war. Okay? And it just triggered something in me. I pulled out a piece of paper, and I started sketching, and I did something that looks like a mandala in terms of the canvas. It's a really big canvas. And I went to the library and I started doing research. And I looked up scale models of all the munitions and equipment that was being used in Desert Storm. And the mandala is made up of AK-15s, stealth bombers, Stinger missiles, and they make this beautiful doily pattern all around this map of the Middle East, which has a projection of an oil well on it. Okay? And I turned it into an installation piece, and I put a rug down on the floor, and I put a chair that people could sit in, and I put a six-pack on the floor next to the chair so that it looked like somebody was drinking. Okay? And the chair was not off limits. The chair was actually an invitation to sit and look at the painting. And the moment someone sat in the chair, they completed the painting for me. And it was called Prime Time Sweeps. Okay. And I designed a frame for it, which I had built, which was a replica of the front of an old TV. You know, the old wooden TVs where the screen was kind of sunk in. I don't know if you've ever seen the old wooden boxes. And I framed it in that. And then I had a Doric column, and I collected beer and soda cans from all the countries that participated in Desert Storm. And I created a waterfall off the Doric column of these bottles, all crushed, creating a pool below the painting.
Great. Okay, so let's give a chance now to Kayleen.
Okay.
And then we will start with other questions
Okay.
that we have about your work and the mentorship and stuff like that. So Kayleen Berry, now you can
Hi.
take your chance.
Thank
Well,
you, guys.
It's going to be interesting.
Yay. Thank you guys for being here. I'm so happy to be here. So a little bit about the work. There's a few different themes that I like to explore. Obviously, my love for animals has been very consistent throughout my life, and all the animals here represent Puerto Rico's ecology. And my work is always going to be rooted in research and science. For the monkeys, these are called the rhesus macaque monkeys, and there's an island in Puerto Rico que se llama Cayo Santiago, and it's right off of Humacao, and it's an island dedicated to the rhesus macaque monkeys just for research purposes. And the reason for that is so that way they can study how closely related we are as humans to the rhesus monkey. And they found that it was 94% connected to us. So I've been very interested in that subject and have kind of developed a series around that, and have worked with the Caribbean Primate Research Center and have worked with the leading anthropologists who are conducting the whole research. Apart from that, I'm deeply interested in folklore, cultural identity, how animals are treated in Puerto Rico. So the horse behind me, this one represents how animals are treated and how they're mistreated and loved as well. And the horse is a symbol of power, but it's also a symbol of how they're protected by the USDA to make sure that they don't die from tick-borne diseases, which is why you see them kind of all over the island and not really cared for. And then I have another piece that's a self-portrait, and that's about our Taino ancestry and how they tried to eradicate the Taino people when the Spaniards came and colonized the island, and how much alike we are to the iguaca, the Puerto Rican parrot, who were on the brink of extinction right after Hurricane Maria, where there was only 13 parrots left. And just like the iguaca, Tainos are still here. So the work is always going to be rooted in Puerto Rico's ecology, as well as my identity as a Puerto Rican woman.
Talking about Kayleen Berry, she's what we call a diasporican, because she's actually in Shohola,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. That's where she has her studio, and she's from Aguadilla, but actually she's from the South Bronx. South Bronx, born Puerto Rican, young girl, kicking ass out there. And Bonelli, strong woman, elderly, fighting out there. I would like to ask her about her mentorship when she was younger, because you go to school and you learn all these techniques, but actually you learn to be an artist once you're out there, and you have to sort of like a wave, try to figure it out. How is it that you're going to do it?
I was very lucky. incredibly lucky. Okay? I had my first opportunity when I was 16, which I was too scared to take advantage of. I was offered an exhibition on 57th Street, and I just didn't have the nerve to collect the drawings and give them to the gallery. They said all I had to do was give them the drawings, nothing else, and they would do everything. I just didn't have the nerve to do it, because growing up in a kind of father who is in a Latin background, and girls don't really have much whatever, and art is not a way to make a living, and if you get married and you've got a good husband, everything is fine. But if you get married and you've got a bad husband and you've got kids, you're in trouble. Okay? So he wanted me to have a profession. Not art, but a profession. So he refused to pay for my schooling if I wanted to be an artist. So growing up with that kind of environment, I really had no ego. I started doing art again when I was about 16. Okay? I then stopped for a while. Then I started again when I was after I got out of school. Okay, but I went to the Art Students League for the first couple of years. Okay, and I was very, very lucky because one of the painters there took me under his wing. And he started introducing me to all kinds of famous artists. And we would sit and we would chat. And the one thing that I learned that was the most important thing is integrity. You have to have integrity if you want to succeed. He said if you can maintain your integrity, you have a shot. He said it's difficult, but you have a shot at success. If you don't maintain your integrity, it's down the tubes. You can't chase the train. You have to build the train. You've got to be at the front of things, not at the back. So through the years, I've tried to maintain that. But as I said, I've been very, very lucky. My first exhibition that I had, Joe calls me up at 6:30 in the morning. My left eye wouldn't open. He says, okay, this is what I want you to do now. He says, I want you to go to the stationery store, buy a book, he said, and I want you to start documenting everything day by day by day by day by day. He said, because you'll never have this experience again. Okay, so that's one of the things I learned, was that once you do something, it doesn't come back again. So my very first show was documented. I had a journal, I was documenting it. I was talking about the paintings, so I started learning about the paintings. And then I was back in art school again. And I went to this school, that school, the next school. I've got about 14 years of training between sculpture, printmaking, and painting. I went to SVA, I went to the Art Students League, I did private study with a sculptor. I have an undergraduate degree, which turned into a double major. I originally went back to school to listen to my father, to do my BA MBA combined. And I chose a school that had a really good master's program. And I figured I'll roll my electives into my master's so I don't have to pay so much money, because now I'm paying for this myself, okay, because he's given up on me. Okay, and the head of the art department at the main campus was teaching a class I was taking, which was a 6-credit class, which was art and literature combined. And at the end of the class, she brought in an art director to talk to me. And he told me, he said, if you want, he said, you could walk into any ad agency and get a job. He said, because you've already got a natural signature. He said, that is you, and it works. But that wasn't the way I wanted to go. I wanted to be a fine artist. I didn't want to be a commercial artist. So I didn't go that way, but I ended up becoming a double major. And I decided it was just too much with a full-time job to maintain a 4.0 if I was whatever. So I decided to take all my electives in the arts, and I ended up with an art and business major. So I was able to do that. Then I went to another art school because I figured I've got to learn to be a painter. I didn't consider myself a good enough painter because I got that ego thing from my daddy. Okay, and there again I got very lucky. There was a class I wanted to be in because I liked that particular painter. I liked his work. And the class was closed. So I was told by someone, put a portfolio together and take it to him and see if he'll take you. Well, I brought him a portfolio, and he opened up a slot for me in his class. So again, I got lucky. Okay? And then I met another painter through him, and that got me into the Mural Society. So I've been very, very lucky over the years in terms of the people that I've connected with. I've just not been lucky in terms of moving ahead as an artist, because that's very, very difficult. Okay? I got into a really good gallery in Boston on a fluke.
Which one?
It was the Beth Erdang Gallery on Newbury.
That's where I live. That's where I am.
Okay, it was Beth Erdang's gallery in Newbury. That's where I exhibited with Roy Lichtenstein and Andy Warhol. And
See, that's what I said back to the
so what it was, she was looking up a phone number. Okay, I had a thumbnail from a show I had done downtown on the page where the phone number was. She was curious, so she called the gallery. She got my phone number. She called me up. By then, I had so much art under my belt, I could talk about art. You know, I could tell you what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. There was a reason behind it. They weren't just pictures. There was a reason and an understanding of what I was doing.
Yeah, because not, you say you're lucky, but what makes your luck is that you work at it every day. So your techniques and all of that, you improve every day, which you can have the talent, but if you don't make, how would I say, a practice of doing it every day, you're not going to get any better and better at it. So that opens up for you to be lucky at it. You know what I'm saying?
That's lucky. I mean, I just
Yeah.
think that.
Well, I've been given opportunities.
I mean,
Yeah, but-
understand.
You have the discipline.
But,
Discipline.
but I feel
Discipline.
Like but obviously you have the skill, and you know, I think that maybe you're saying lucky because you're a woman at that time and it's a little bit harder.
It's hard.
To work.
Well,
Right.
I ended up getting picked up by the gallery because she took.
Well, that's talent.
She picked up. I sent her a portfolio. She picked up X pieces that she wanted for the show. She picked them up. She brought them to the gallery with no promise I would be in the show.
Right.
Okay, absolutely no promise whatsoever that I would get a show. She was going to take a look at the pieces first, because she wanted to make sure that what she was looking at was what she was getting. Because a lot of times with acrylic, you see one thing, but when you see the actual work,
It's-
they look very different.
Right.
Okay, what seems like it looks professional on one end, when you look at it, it looks very amateur. When you actually see the works. So she put me in the show, and that was the first time I exhibited with Warhol and Lichtenstein.
See?
Yeah.
Well, in any case, I got lucky again because the show opened. The show opened up.
You were selected.
Well, the
The
thing,
show
you were
opened
selected,
up,
but
and
Bonelli, you were selected, but the
first
fact
hour,
is,
she sold everything.
yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
That's not
But the
even wrong.
thing
That's
is
talent
that
and skill.
what exactly skill and
No, it's being in good
and-
company.
yeah, no, but it's skill and what I'm saying is working at it and working at it is what opens up the way for somebody to who is a dealer or a gallery or a collector or whatever to see that okay, this person is going somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, if you don't dedicate the time or sacrifice, this is for the people that are listening to this video, and young people. I would like also for Kayleen talk about her story as a young person and trying to open up the way for herself in these very difficult times. You know, being a woman, young, LGBT, in this situation.
Well, my art journey began when I was a kid as well, and I had amazing parents who saw that in me, and they nurtured that. I went to the High School of Art and Design on 57th Street, and I studied graphic design, and I actually really wanted to study painting, but my parents were like, well, my mom said, girl, no, there's no money in painting. Like, we're not doing that. You need to pick something practical. And I'm actually really grateful that I did do the graphic design because in a way they go hand in hand and the world is always going to be evolving. Painting is a skill that you can keep building and with the right mentors as well and the right influences, you know, you can keep working on that. But computers and technology are just going to keep evolving to a point where not even I can understand at this point in time, but I'm embracing it. So after graduation in high school, I went to CCA California College of the Arts, and I graduated in 2017 with a BFA in textiles. And I fell in love with textiles. I fell in love with the way that I could paint and draw on fabric, and I could make it into either a tapestry or I could make it something that was wearable, so something that was useful. And for a while, my career was in print and pattern design. So I worked in the fashion industry, and I got to see those drawings and paintings come to life. And I would be walking around the city, seeing people wear my designs, which was a really gratifying feeling. But still, I was wanting to paint. And I didn't learn any painting in school because, again, I didn't focus on that. But the hunger and the drive was there. So I've been painting since 2017, since I graduated, and that's been the only thing that I've been wanting to do every single day from the moment that I wake up. I dream about it, about how I can fix certain things or try new mediums, be inspired. Art is my life, it's my livelihood. And as a queer Latina, I embrace it. I feel like that's a superpower. And I will never see that as something that's going to push me down in the art world. If not, I'm just going to be amplified even more.
We have something in common. I spent one season, I designed textiles, and I made the rounds to all the houses, and I was selling the designs.
That is so much fun. Actually,
No, it's a pain in the ass.
it is. You have to carry a bunch of suitcases.
Yeah,
when you do that.
I had all these drawings that I had done, all these fabric drawings I had done, and I was going from house to house to house. And, this one would take one drawing here, one drawing there, 'cause I needed money. This is a good way to make money.
Yeah. It is a good way to make money, and it's also like so much fun. Literally the other day my wife asked me, she's like, what do you like about print and pattern design? And I said, the drawing part. And she thought I was adorable because it still stems from that love, from like drawing from when I was a kid. I do it every single day. I can't help myself.
So would you say that the basics for everything in the arts, in the visual arts, drawing is the key? Drawing for everything is, and sketching and getting ideas.
You need two things. You need craft. If you don't have craft, you're pigeonholed into your limited abilities. So you need to be able to draw. Okay? If you can't, even if you don't use it, you need to be able to draw. Let's say I'm doing a piece of work. Okay, I did one painting. I put a piece of bridge in it. In order for me to put in an accurate bridge, I need to know how to draw. I need to know perspective. I need to know all the different things about drawing in order for me to be able to paint this bridge that I wanted in the corner of the painting. Okay? So craft is extremely important.
So when you talk about craft,
And that's the thing
craft.
that they can teach you. That's the thing you can be taught. Craft is teachable. Some people have it naturally. Okay? But craft is teachable. What's not really teachable is creativity.
Yes.
You can't be taught an eye. You can get some sense of cropping, some sense of, like a photographer's eye. They look, they see, they can pinpoint what it is they want to shoot, and they know how to crop it out. Okay? And you need to be able to do that when you're a painter. You need to be able to work the entire surface of the canvas, not just the one image that you're putting in. You've got to work all around it and the whole thing. You've got to build it and develop it. And that's something I don't think is so easy to teach. I think that's something that comes from within the person. It comes from years of repeating and working and trial and error, or sometimes it comes about naturally, depending on the person. But that is the most important thing. So you need those two components. And then you need color sense.
Yeah,
If you're
color theory.
colorblind, you're going to have a problem painting. Well, I do photography before I paint. I will take my camera. Like for these paintings that are back there, I shot 700 photographs.
Wow.
Okay, I went all over Times Square, into the buildings. I asked for permission to go into the rooms and to shoot out the windows. And I went down the alleys. I went all around everywhere, just shooting and shooting and shooting. Because in order to do an abstract that's going to have a sense of a place, you've got to figure out the geometry of that location. Every area has its own geometry. Okay? It's its own kind of thing. Like if I do Long Island City, there's a lot of train tracks. is factory buildings and train tracks and trains. That's what you see all around as you travel around. Okay? So you need to kind of get a sense of all of that if you want to do a abstract of an area. If you're doing a representation of the area, you can just simply zero it in on whatever it is you're going to do. But if you're going to abstract, you've got to find what it is, what repetitions occur in order to implement those repetitions.
Would you say, Kayleen, I mean, like she's talking about that, could you talk about with your paintings, and your experience on that too? Can you talk a little bit about that also?
For sure. I mean, to Bonelli's point, I feel like drawing is the foundation. And I always say you can learn the rules so you can break the rules. And it always stems from that foundation of drawing and what I'm inspired by. But in terms of my paintings, I've just had to learn the medium. These are all done in acrylic. And I didn't know how to use acrylic for a long time. And then I found how to work with the medium and how to move it and shift with it and learn its behaviors because it's a very finicky medium. I love it, and I love how vibrant everything can be. But yeah, it's just trial and error and just learning what you're working with.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's so important because even like, how would I say, even Picasso and a lot of other artists out there, because their parents were artists, they started very, very young, like they were 9 years old, 10 years old, which our kids, Puerto Rican, Mexicans in the city, like if you have money, you send them to good school to start learning how to paint. So by the time they get to hit 20 years old or they go to a school to be a fine art artist, they have had this experience, which if you have the talent and you're, from this neighborhood, you won't have that, you won't have those techniques, you won't have those things like the opportunities. We have to open it up for young people to start when they're very, very young, to have those opportunities. Up to us to open up that way for them so that they later on, especially girls, women, because the world out there is still being run by men. You know what I mean? And
Not for long.
so and then also the other things, like when you're in the university, everybody's just thinking, well, you know what? I don't want you to. You got to end up with a profession when you finish your 4 years, and that's sort of like very depressing because that will cut you off in terms of your development. So when you get out there to have the opportunity to submit for residencies, compete for shows and all of that. So in terms of your technique, it really gets out there, you know what I mean? And as a people, you end up not advancing in the world, So moving this forward, we got to make sure that there's scholarships
Absolutely.
for young people in the different museums. The Board of Education doesn't supply in the art school whatever. There's not even material. Sometimes they don't even have paper. So as being part of science, mathematics, literature, and all of that, this should be a primary thing because this also helps you with your psychic in terms of going through problems and stuff like that, and learning to relax and all of that, therapeutic and all of that. Children should be taught this in school all the time. So you both, as artists, young and, with your experience, Monelli, I think the message should be put out there, you know what I'm saying? Because the parent, like I know in Kayleen's case, her mother was the one supporting how many kids? 2 or 3. Because you have another sister
Yeah,
and
older
a brother.
brother and older sister.
Right.
Well, both
so
of them.
it's hard. It's hard, when you're 8, 9, 10 years old. Your parents really supporting you just for you to go. Just like music. If you learn how to play the piano, the violin, if you look at Nina Simone, she was saved by a woman who really gave her classes when she was very, very young. And actually, she wanted to be a classical pianist, but she never made it to make a classical pianist because she was black. So, here we are with this situation within our cultures that in society, still in the United States, which is a very rich country, we are not taking care of our young people. You know what I mean? To really make it out there, either in music, literature. You know what I mean? If these venues were open in terms of money, and it doesn't take that much money, you know what I'm saying? Or mentorship.
A lot of it also, though, is that parents don't know that there are programs out there because they're not advertised. All the museums have programs for children. All of the museums have programs. Afternoon, after-school programs, but people don't know it. Okay? So they don't go. Okay? I was lucky. Okay? I was 5 years old and I was in an arts and crafts building after school, and I was able to paint when I was 5.
I think that's also tied into socioeconomics, just saying, because a lot of these people are working, and how they know it's there. I grew up in the Bronx. My mom and my dad were both huge helpers, and in that way, they both pushed me. But my dad worked all day. My mom worked all day.
So did my mom and dad.
Yeah, but from the Bronx, I don't know how a
Well,
10-year-old was gonna go to the
I would
city.
be home from school. I went to boarding school. I was very fortunate. And I'd get home before the public schools were out. So I'd have no playmates for a couple of weeks because I got out a couple of weeks before everybody else. So I would pack up my lunch, and I would walk over to the Metropolitan, and they got to know me. And I lived a few blocks away from there, and I would walk in. I had no idea you had to pay to go. I would just walk in, and I would wander around. I would bring some paper and pencil with me, and I would sit down next to an artist, and I would sketch.
Yeah, but what happens? But what happens is, I mean, I understand. Your age and Kayleen's age, and whatever. You have to understand that for the museum, even today, a lot of people feel marginalized. And they're scared they will not go. They won't even travel outside of the South Bronx or Harlem here.
Yeah.
It's so close to 96th Street, 86th Street, even the Whitney. People from El Barrio will not go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They feel marginalized.
That's a shame.
So it's a psyche thing. So we need to break those patterns so that the children are able to get over that hurdle. And the school system also to go visit, go visit. Yes, Ruben.
But in all fairness, right now, I mean, all the museums, the majority of them have programs for children. Right. The Bronx Museum has a day for children. It's always advertised. El Museo del Barrio, and the Whitney on Fridays under 25, they allow in. So there is a lot of institutions providing stuff for children. I think that what needs to be more emphasized is when the schools itself, the teachers and the superintendents and the principals need to be aware of that in order to transfer that information to them, so they could, go onto the Whitney on a Friday. Like I was just there yesterday. I was in a private event, but there was a free under 25 thing. I still consider a little bit ageist, but because it doesn't apply for me. But I found my way to maneuver my way in. But it was like amazing to go and see the exhibition of Amy Sherrill, which is, I really recommend everybody to go and see. It's incredible, American Sublime. So there is programs that they were not 10 years ago on that.
So it's about information and getting the information out there.
But you're right about the intimidation factor.
They feel intimidated. It's a racial situation. They don't know how to walk
But that
in.
is everywhere because it happens in our
But we gotta break those patterns, and it's done through
It's
education.
a little hard right now with under the administration that we're under now. I mean, I'm not talking about so much New York City because we are in an area that we're very privileged. I mean, you could go to Chelsea and you could see museum shows for free.
Right.
The galleries really put amazing exhibitions that are museum quality.
Yeah.
And that's free to the public.
Right.
I think it's also breakthrough that fear of walking into a place that people don't, I guess, feel welcome.
Exactly. They don't feel welcome. I wanted to ask Rolando, because he's been in the barrio. He's been one of the activists from the time of the Young Lords. That we seem to be fighting the same the same thing all over again. Nothing has really changed. Ronaldo, you want to talk about that?
mentioned the socioeconomic, the exposure, the racial boundaries, uh, the development of art and artists. I'm not loud enough. The development of arts and artists. Museo del Barrio, you mentioned the Museo del Barrio. The birth of the Museo del Barrio was a fight against a racial divide, racism, prejudice, colonialism. That was the birth of the Museo del Barrio. And you coin in, if you can, Museo del Barrio, the name alone, Museo del Barrio. You participated in something that I was against. And let's call it the Latino Museo, or something to that effect. Bullshit. Museo del Barrio, to represent the culture that is involved in El Barrio, the name Barrio alone, and to evolve, for us to evolve, with the colonialism, with the racism, generational trauma, the endemic racial behavior within our culture, within the Mexican culture, with all different cultures that have been colonized.
Thank you, Ronaldo.
I would love to
I
go
appreciate.
to the I'm
I
invited
appreciate.
all the time, but it's like, why did we do the Museo del Barrio here? Why did we do the Museum of the City of New York?
Well, they offer different programs and different exhibitions.
Those programs have evolved in the last 15, 20
Well,
years.
well, the
know
thing
what?
is,
What happened
the thing is,
40
it has
Do
to
you
do
know why
with
the
money.
why the Metropolitan Museum is up here? There's a reason for it. Okay, there was a plot of land that the city had. They wanted to give it to the post office. The post office said it was too far out of town in the country. Okay, and they declined to take the space.
You get a note.
So the Met decided they would take it because people could go on a picnic and a nice outing at the same time as they went to the museum. So that's why it ended up where it is, right in the middle of Manhattan. But there was a time when that was not considered a developed area.
But I just think it's, unfortunate. It's also, again, it goes back to the education factor of it. Because right now, I just got my New York City ID, and you know how much you could do with that in museums? They give you a full membership at the moment for a full year. Suppose go and get one. You know what I got mine on? In 115 at Lexington. I live in Harlem. I went there, and within a week I had it. So
But nobody knows.
there is so many opportunities right now. People need to just put themselves out there. And again, going on a tour, an exhibition in Chelsea alone, that's an education right there. And it's free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's about the mind frame. We are in a big playground here, and it's so much opportunities available to us that they're free. And everybody's welcome now.
Well, they're still, we got to talk with the psychic and the psychological situation of the people, you know what I mean? Why they won't move. Why they won't move from 125th to 96, 97, or 50, So, yeah, that's part, but it's all psychic. It's all the I bendito. The I bendito needs to end, in our culture.
We have Latin and
you
even
know,
Puerto Ricans
where-
in major positions all over.
You know,
We might not recognize each other because we don't have that stereotype look,
Yeah.
But they're all over.
Yeah.
One of the big donors involved in the Highline is a Puerto Rican woman.
Yeah.
So, there's
Well,
so
I
much
like
out
to
there.
say something about that because I have here one of our, how would I say, person that helps us a lot at the Rafael Tufino Printmaking Workshop. That's Julia Roggi. She's right here. And she always helps us with donation for paper, ink, and other things with the artists, to buy also paint or canvas or whatever to artists that don't have those things that we could help to move them on. And Julia, she's American from 79th Street or something, and she comes here and she helps. So, and she's going to be bringing her friends also to help also. And Bonelli, you know what I mean? Because this way we can help other young artists, because it's not, I mean, you would say that, I mean, it's New York City, you know what I mean? And everything is like New York State, you know, you can't go outside of New York State. You have to stay within the compounds of the city or the state. And there should be opportunity for artists to get grants, to get, you know, say, oh, I need 15,000 for a whole year. To come up with some idea to do my artwork and to be exposed. So this is why Galeria Taller Boricua is here. But still, we're running through the hurdles and all of that.
I was just on Columbus Avenue and 91st Street, and there's a senior center there, and they have a big poster outside advertising a student residency for arts.
The opportunities are everywhere, right? We have access to the internet. You can see the residencies. There's so many grants available to artists now. We're in an age right now where we can take advantage of those things. And then, you know, in turn, at some point in my career, I would love to return the favor. And that's how you end the cycle of this struggle. And we're all working together, and we're walking into a new age, and we have to be able to embrace that as well.
Yeah, and also it's about selection committees. We got to get into those selection committees. If not, they're not going to choose our people. So there's a lot of stuff. That we not
Right
the
now,
hurdles.
all the major museums, Jack Wheaton is at the MoMA, he's a black artist. At the Guggenheim, they have Rashid Johnson, black artist. At the Whitney, they have Amy Sherrill, a black woman artist. At the Metropolitan, is about to open next week. They're going to have the style about black fashion. So, folks,
Yeah, but
really,
Ruben, listen. In the MacArthur, only 2 Puerto Ricans have received it. Not a woman, 2 males. Pepón Osorio and Lynn. Okay? That says a lot. You know what I'm saying? With all geniuses, we got plenty of geniuses. And we got geniuses that are women. How many Puerto Rican women have received that? None. So, you know, here we go again. We're in 2025. I mean, we should be really getting ahead. And this is not happening. You know, we got to change those things. So I'm really thankful for Bonelli and Kayleen to have come to the gallery to exhibit with us. And this is going to be until May 31st of this year. And you will be watching this video that Willie's going to put together for the gallery. And you have other things to say that you want to say, Bonelli and Kayleen?
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Because you have a business education.
Yeah, I'm running a business
So
also.
do I. You know, I have a degree in architecture and a degree in business, but I wanted to ask you, like, how that affect your having that business degree. Did that really help you?
I have
in terms of-
17,000 square feet of a commercial floor in a building in Long Island City
Okay.
that I designed. I gave the designs to an architect. He put his stamp on it, submitted it to the buildings department. We got our permits and we built it. I got a commission for a lobby piece, which paid me good money. I used that commission to fund the development of the studio.
Okay.
Okay? So because of that, I have got an incredible workspace. I have 1,400 square feet
Wow.
of a studio. I've got a 20-foot painting closet. I've got my own kitchen, my own bathroom, and I'm soundproof from all my tenants. I can control who paints around me because I'm the landlord.
Right. But
So
the thing
if
is
I don't
also
like
that's
you,
that's really
when
great.
you
But
come
we
up for
need
a renewal,
we need people like
50%
her
increase.
to make commitments of mentorship to young people like Kayleen.
Correct.
So to embrace and bring even young people, because then young people can work with Kayleen and Kayleen can work with her. We need to embrace and start a commitment within our community to choose one person, and I'm gonna really mentorship this person. I want to make sure that if I made it to here, you know, I want them to succeed me. You know what I mean? Culturally and in terms of money and all of that. So these are the commitments we need to do as a people in America because Puerto Ricans are American citizens, and when we come from Puerto Rico, we're not immigrants, we migrate, and we don't get a lot of the benefits. Also, the Mexicans, they have their own country, but they do a lot of, the Chicanos do a lot of things. Also, the same thing with the Latinx young people, education, they're paying their loans for going to school. Some of these students, they're into a debt of hundred thousands of dollars for their education, and we got to make sure they get jobs out there. So thank you for coming today. Any more questions for Kayleen? You want to say something?
If there's a question, sure.
Another question.
What's up?
I wanted to know if you're going to develop this further, this body of work in particular.
With the rhesus monkeys?
Yeah, and also I know some people don't know here that there's a very excellent 60-minute speech about that whole history, that work that is references from that. People should watch.
Yeah, it's actually a really amazing video. But yes, I do plan on developing more. I have some incredible images that are so beautiful and they're very detailed. So I'm working with the anthropologist, Doctora Angelina Lambides, and she sent me some PDF of just like their research, and it's all really amazing. So I have about 2 more pieces that I want to add to the story, and who knows, it'll probably just keep growing because that's how art works. You just keep getting inspired, and it's a snowball effect.
What about this artist over here? Are you an artist also? No? Okay.
I'm a curator, but I wanted to ask Kayleen.
Can you say your name also, please?
Nikki. My name is Nikki. My question for Kayleen was, you talked about your history doing, commercial design, and I want to know what you think is the most rewarding thing about kind of switching to painting, and also I wanted to ask you, I think it's hard. I studied Latinx art. I still study Latinx art at Parsons, and I think it's really difficult because when you're a Latinx artist brought into a space, sometimes if you're surrounded by too many white artists or artists of a different culture, you're almost pigeonholed into only painting about that particular experience, right? So your paintings are about the monkeys, but you're not making, like, I think people sometimes assume that you're making a larger commentary on this plight of like being the diasporican woman or queerness or whatever. So I guess I wanted to know, those are my 2 questions, if you had any thoughts about that.
For sure. That's a great question because I've always felt really strongly about that as well. And I know I'm a person of color. I know I'm a Puerto Rican woman. I know I'm a gay Puerto Rican woman. But that's never, I don't lead with that. And I like to feel like I can fit in any space. And I do think that you need a lot of confidence because, you are in a space with a lot of other white artists, and that's not a bad thing. We can all coexist in the same space, and I'm still going to uphold my culture, my roots. But I also want to teach you, too, because a lot of this work, of course, I'm painting ecological animals from Puerto Rico, but, like, I want it to be educational, and I want people to learn about Gallo Santiago because the work that they're doing is incredible. It's so cool. But I also want people to understand our roots and why we have horses all over the island, because people visit all the time. It's a tourism hub, not pub, hub. And people always say, wow, there's wild horses everywhere. Yeah, but let's dig historically as to why they're there. And I'm obsessed with animals, and Puerto Rico has an abundance to choose from, and I just keep getting inspired by that. And I'm sure it'll go in a different direction. Maybe I'll be inspired by animals in Indonesia at some point. Just right now that's the hot spot for me and what I'm inspired by.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I also see that there's like 3 bodies of work here, and it's 3 different directions that you could go along the way on your path. Like this work is definitely very important ecologically, and it's messaging, and then your own personal self-portraits, because I know that you've been developing more of them.
Yeah.
I've been following your work. And then, this other work, which is, the horses and the things that they're more in the island itself. And then, there's like a universal theme in all of them, but within that itself, I see that there's like 3 different directions that you could go along your own path down the road and develop 3 very strong bodies of work,
you
For
know?
sure, yeah. I think so as well. And as I see them in the space, just kind of interacting with each other, I said this before, but it feels like I created them and now they get to speak for themselves and they're driving the boat and I'm just kind of here to watch them do their thing. And I agree with you, there are 3 different bodies of work in here, but I love how they sit with each other and for the
Great that they have that, you know.
yeah, they have their own presence and they're all having a conversation and I love that for them. But, you know, when it came to the self-portrait, I've never done a self-portrait before this. And I just really wanted to try my hand at it and I actually fell in love with it and now I'm developing more of that. But, you know, they're all still connected, even with the bananas. That's all rooted in folklore and how the bananas are such a Puerto Rican thing. Like, there's bananas everywhere. There's bananas in my backyard while I'm there. I chop them down, I bring them to my neighbors. It's a camaraderie thing. But then the bows on it are supposed to symbolize trend and how even tradition can be commodified. And the tarantulas, you know, araña pelúa, there's like so many bad connotations that's connected to that, but it's also medicinal. And then we have the pampana that's on the bottom, and that's also used for medicinal purposes, for cures for PMS, cures for diabetes. And that piece is supposed to lure you into the surreal space where, you know, things are not really making sense. And that's always been like the fun part of painting for me, is just kind of creating my own little worlds and bringing you into it.
Great, thank you. What about you, Bonelli? So we can say goodbye to everybody and thank you.
Thank everyone for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Yeah.
this was a fun afternoon.
Yes. And
I'm excited.
and there's a young girl. There's a young girl here. You have anything to say? You want to say something? No? You like the show? Are you planning to be an artist? You don't know. Okay, I hope you become an artist also. Okay, thank you everybody for coming. This is Taller Boricua. A lot of applause to the artists. Thank you so much for being here. Goodbye. For the next show will be in June, and it will be Felipe Plaza. And I want to thank Willie and Jay for being here to do the video and to take care of the gallery. Thank you.
Hey,
Good
thank you
night.
guys.
Not enough time. Not enough time. What happened? Yeah, but I want to hear her talk about more about the pieces. This lovely lady here who's wow. Thank you. Great evolution, especially in Long Island City. You got the impression. You said landlord.
Out the floor.
Okay, so you have to say a positive.
But it gives me though. It gives me
I wish some of the gentlemen that have done
Mais que nada, sai da minha frente, eu quero passar. Pois o samba está animado, o que eu quero é sambar. Esse samba que é misto de maracatu. É samba de preto velho, samba de preto tu. Mas